tell us about EI Ventures. Tell us about silly.com. I see you got the shirt on today. Give us a little bit of background, if you don't mind.
Yeah, totally. I think it's very serendipitous to come back to Hawaii. I think there's always a awareness of things that happen in your life, and obviously coming right back into Ala Moana, you see, post-COVID and some of the things pre-COVID, like homelessness and mental illness. Actually, when I arrived to my new place, there was a gentleman that was, dealing with some mental illness and walking around the property, and, he actually got arrested, and he kind of didn't know where he was. And I just think that what has happened is, we've forgotten about a lot of people. Like, as humans, it's really sad that we don't have access to products that we know work. And, super excited that, this Netflix documentary just came out with Michael Pollan. And obviously there's been about 350 startups that have gotten into the psychedelic space. Unfortunately, some of them don't have the best of intentions, but we're here to stay. I mean, we're going to be here for a very long time. And soon as we got here last week, we jumped right on in. I mean, we're actually hiring a number of locals to help us here. We want to really hire local people and fund local startups. And, the vision of always having a plant-based accelerator here in Hawaii, I think is a few weeks away.
Tell us about the Netflix documentary, if you don't mind, because I've started to watch it, believe it or not. Yeah, it showed up on my Netflix, and I'm like, well, we're going to be doing this talk. It would be remiss of me if I didn't tune in. And it was serendipitous. It was serendipitous.
I think the tough part when you watch stuff like that, and I will say, I give a lot of, I appreciate Michael Pollan has taken it upon himself to get into psychedelics, but I think that, when you have people on these documentaries and them personally, and that maybe their intentions aren't great, I think that sometimes you get into this type of stuff and you don't go to like the roots of where it all comes from. And obviously Hawaii is a land of plant medicines, and there are places around the world that we visited that are doing the work. And I think the tough part about it is when you don't really go back to the wisdom of this, and you keep it in this doctrine of like medical universities and other things, I almost think you lose the context of where these things come from. And yes, I believe in the FDA pathway and everything else, but there's an element of access that needs to happen today. And I would say to you that I get messages every day with people that need access to these medicines today. And I'm super excited to see how many states have decriminalized, and states like Oregon and Colorado that are putting laws in place to have these products come to market. Somebody said no audio. Are we okay?
Yeah, I can hear you perfect. Jeremy?
Perfect.
Jeremy, can you hear us perfect?
Yeah, I can hear both of y'all.
Awesome. So just want to make sure. If I sound a little tired, I've only had one cup of coffee so far. So
No, you don't sound tired at all.
You
don't sound tired at all. Even though I was getting emails from you at 2:33 in the morning or 2:23 in the morning. I was responding at 2:33 in the morning. So
all good.
So, all right. One of the things that I took from the beginning of watching that documentary, I think it's a series, correct? Is it a series?
Yeah.
All right. So I started, and the name of it is How to Change Your Mind. Is that what the name of it is?
So Michael Pollan wrote a book on his voyage down, looking into magic mushrooms, mescaline, MDMA, and it gives you a context of, you know, people that have actually been positively affected by these products. And I think the contradiction point for me is always this element of synthetic. And for the longest time, people told us that the plant-based products weren't stable and they're not going to come to market. And at the end of the day, there are places in the world where you can go take plant-based medicines, not synthetic medicines, and go on journeys that are, you know, well structured, that have boundaries. So to watch Oregon, which is incredible, to build, you know, regulations and laws around somebody being able to take actual magic mushrooms is the first step. And as I said in an interview yesterday, you know, we're still 5 or 10 years away realistically in seeing these products have real access to the masses. And it's really sad, definitely being in Hawaii, because I live across the street from a park that probably has about 50 homeless people living in it. And a lot of them are, you know, dealing with mental illness. A lot of them are war veterans. So these are people that need access now.
All right. So look, when I was listening to this documentary, one of the things that he goes into is we need to change our minds on how we look at, you know, psilocybin, psychedelics, right? So a lot of people look at it as a party drug, like, hey, we're going to go and we're going to party, and, you know, so in order for us to get beyond that, we have to, what he suggests, and I found this extremely helpful, is we have to look at what it's doing for people, right? So, and what we have to change our filter in which we're looking at it from, in order to truly understand the benefits of it. And instead of looking at it as a party drug, we can look at it as a way to help heal people from depression, to help people heal from anxiety issues, to help people to handle, you know, trauma that they've gone through in their lives. And we were supposed to have Dr. Jim Roots on today, licensed psychologist, you know, tenured professor of psychology at Barry University, who is a very, very big believer and advocate, and somebody who has benefited from, you know, from psychedelics in his own personal life today. Unfortunately, he was unable to make it because one of his patients had an actual emergency come up. But Jim came to me outside of you, and he basically said that psilocybin speeds up the therapy process, and something that requires 5 years of time to gain insight into and to heal, when properly guided with a professional, somebody who knows what they're doing in a safe space, they can have breakthroughs that take 5 years in regular psychotherapy. They could have it in one session, 2 sessions.
I you know, Michael, there's a lot of thoughts going through my mind, and it's not 1 or 2 sessions. I think that it's an element of, as we drink a cup of coffee every morning when we get up, it's an element of using these products as tools on a daily basis. And it's beyond psychedelics for us now, especially with a lot of the partnerships that we've gotten into. I've always said it's a frequency of energy. And coming back to a lot of the people I met, you know, back in the North Hawaii, 20 years ago, there's 2,000 what they will call super compounds or super plants in the Hawaiian Islands. These are products that are from Earth that have some type of healing modality through alkaloids. And I just think we are in an element now where we have to open this up in some degree to say, hey, it's okay to create what I would call these nano super compound analogs to start treating people. And one of the issues which, is not being dealt with today that will soon be dealt with is how the analogs are regulated, because there's a lot of startups that are working on them. There's actually been people selling analog psychotropic products online. And this has always been a tough point for us because in our minds, we want to use AI and machine learning to be able to, build these compounds that are going to be in 10 years, specifically, it's compounding medicine that's specifically for a certain person. Not all of us weigh the same. Not all of our DNA is the same. And I think what really, really troubles me is there's so much money that gets put into so many other things. And if the right money went to the right places and we really worked on this, I've always believed that the core issues we have in the world come from the emotional intelligence of people. So wherever things went wrong and plants became bad for us, we need to change that awareness or consciousness, because the fact that everybody's on this biosynthetic route, and we hear about it all the time in Hawaii about Monsanto and Roundup and other things. I don't know if we totally know what these products do to us. And again, I don't want to get into my specific thoughts around COVID and everything else, but I can tell you that being in Hawaii, it's a very hot topic, considering that Monsanto has been on these islands for so long. And using humans as guinea pigs with biosynthetic materials is very dangerous.
I can see exactly where you're coming from that perspective, right? We've written off plant medicine in favor of pharmacology, right? And plants have been around a lot longer than.
Let's get to this. Let's get on a positive note. So on a positive note, Silly is doing incredible. We now control all the trademarks around Silly. We're about to announce a massive strategic partnership next week, which we can't totally talk about, but we have about a dozen initiatives that we are working on, inclusive of the metaverse, and replicating what we did at Lumeria in Maui. If anybody knows, Jason and I were involved in manifesting a property in Maui that was based on a retreat center concept. And the beautiful part about it is we are back home in a place where people connect with the land. And when we talk about being Pono and righteous and doing the right thing, there's an element here where there's a level of consciousness that still exists. And I was in Miami for the last year. And as I said in the psychedelic space 2 years ago, that, almost every stock would consolidate 90% because there was not good intentions behind it. I watched the same thing in the crypto space in Miami. So I try to explain to people that the frequency of energy when it comes to the energy you put into things has to be right before you go down the road of building something like this. We now see that Silly is going to be a very, very big company because foundationally, we put over a decade of time into the business and making sure that we had the right intentions behind it.
You know, David, I think that the place I'm coming from right now is a very positive place. I think that Silly in EI Ventures is properly positioned to like maximize a trend that's happening underneath our feet, right?
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with flicking people off on an Instagram commercial or something about your brand. And I think that it is very positive, but we got to move away from brands and people and things where it's about showing off your car or flicking somebody off or not being socially aware or conscious. We've lost that element of what we find is cool and not cool. And we need to make this idea of empathy and caring for one another very cool, because it is.
So investors today that, you know, should be looking at EI right now to put money into, right? Into the actual company.
We're super grateful for our Reg A. We've already had over 7 figures in commitments in our Reg D, Reg S. We're good. And we actually, what I told the team yesterday is we're a few days from winding down this final Reg D and Reg S. Now it's really about coming together and getting ready for what's next for this company and deploying funding and building this company into what it's going to be. It's going to be this brand that comes out of Hawaii that when you see it, when you feel it, when you talk to our team, we're not walking contradictions. And I've always said, you know, the company that I look up to is like a Patagonia. We really built Silly in the mirror of that company. And we need to have trusted brands in the world right now. And I think that when people are out there and they have big businesses and they are major social figures, they need to steward who they are and their businesses properly. And listen, I'm not a perfect person at all, but I really strive to better myself every day.
And I've got to see that, and I've got to learn from you, which has been amazing. And you know, I think what you're doing with the company, it's perfect timing. And you know, I won't, people who know me know I won't make you know, claims like this. I won't make statements like this unless I firmly like see it and believe it and I'm able to verify it. And the reason that I'm coming up with the conversation that I'm coming up with is I think that there's a lot of people that feel you know, that it's early in the space. And
it's super early. And can you believe we're 2 years in and 90% of the companies that came into the space are going under. I mean, what a disaster. So we have to now execute, and we have to do everything we said we were going to do. And divinely, the universe has allowed us to do that. And, you know, we're still working on a lot of the specifics, but, you know, we're going to talk about it. You know, Jason was here as I got settled into my new place, and we are going to go down the road of doing what we call the alkaloid accelerator or the Silly accelerator. And it's going to be about empowering local companies in Hawaii that are working with plant medicines or plant products. And our goal at this point is to deploy $1 billion plus into companies in Hawaii. So I think as much as people want to know where this money that they invested in is going into, it's about us stewarding capital and using the elements of what we've learned from people like Paul Graham and Naval Ravikant and the group at Republic to empower other companies. And that is our plan for the next so many months, is to make sure that Hawaii, because of the energy here, is broadcasted to the world.
I love it. I love what you're doing. I love the space. So talk to us about, high level. I know you can't talk about specific partnerships that are close or done, but they're not announced yet.
This is what I will
talk about high level. Give us high level what your thinking is today.
So Jason and I got into cannabis probably 20 years ago. I was involved with a number of cannabis licenses in California. Worked on some oil pens and some grows in California, watched the whole process. Obviously have been very early in a number of companies like Meadows, Speedweed, a ton of different companies. As I said, I need my second cup of coffee. But for us to 20 years later be able to use Silly for all types of products, whether it's nutraceuticals, cannabis, CBD, psychedelics, and to see the whole trademark thing and everything come together. I'll tell you what I've learned through this process. You got to surrender. And on the toughest days, when shit's hitting the fan and you're losing friends through this process, or things are going on, you got to stand strong, and you got to believe in yourself, and you got to believe that, we talked about this yesterday. If I had to work for free, which I did for many years, I would to be in this position. I don't think a lot of people know that probably in the first 15 years of working on this project, we didn't even get paid. So the idea of living your dharma and your purpose, I think there's a lot of elements to this, because I think when I talk to a lot of people, psychedelics will bring a happiness back into the world. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
So look, I'm in trauma treatment right now, right? And I spend about 3.5 hours a week, because of some stuff that happened during COVID, where I was in the ICU for 21 days. And I'll tell you, it's a very, very difficult process. It's a very, very difficult process to actually go through. So I've had an affinity to you, to your company, to the community that you're actually building, to the technology that is inside of your vision, to bring treatments at low cost to masses, right?
Yeah, we're still committed to this day, a decade later, of $1 a dose, because at the end of the day, it can be done. The global market is huge. We've always said the customer base of this product is over 1 billion people. We've seen it with other companies like Apple and Facebook. That's where this company is going. We want to affect 1 billion people. And if it's not with our psychedelics, it's with our nootropics, or it's with our cannabis products, or it's with our CBD products, or it's through guided journeys in the metaverse. So at the end of the day, we're going to have a lot of tools in this toolbox, and we're going to make sure that we steward capital. And, as Jason always says, how you do anything is how you do everything. And for a lot of people that saw me in Miami, and, I definitely was living a different life there, I left Miami with 2 suitcases and I came to Hawaii, and I left everything behind there. And I said, I need to get back to what connected me to this mission, to this journey. And, I don't talk about it much anymore, but, my own trauma with mental illness and Asperger's and all types of things on the list, relationship issues with women. I have used these products personally to help myself. And I currently use these products as I've come back to Hawaii. I am using these products like cannabis to deal with my addiction to alcohol and cigars and other bad habits that I picked up in Miami. And I can openly say that. And I can tell you that the weed that I smoke in Hawaii that's grown by a local person that is giving love and good energy to it is always going to taste better than a soda factory.
Got you. So, David, I am going to bring this back to my institutional investment background, right? Because that's our following. That's our following. And I know that I have a bunch of people, because I can see them in here, and they're thinking, this is all well and good.
Yeah.
But the regulatory framework to treat people is just not there in the US.
Right now. And that's okay. That's
so
what.
Talk to me about strategy. Talk to me about your thinking. Talk to me, because I know that you're working on this stuff, and I think you have an exceptional plan. I can't describe it for you.
My strategy, which is what we've done at our family office that has made us successful. We always look at everything like a roulette table. You put a lot of chips, you put 1 chip on every number, you double down on certain numbers, and sometimes you put 10 chips on 1 number. And through this journey, we are at a place where we have committed to companies like Avocana, where we are funding partnerships through joint ventures, and many other people. We're in the process of finalizing our deal in the metaverse, where we have an incredible technology company that we've been manifesting for the last 7 or 8 months to build, this version of Lumeria in Hawaii in the metaverse. So again, no, I can't ship you silly today, but I'm going to do my darndest to make sure that we have products today that are going to go to market.
All right. So you have products that are going to market.
Yep.
And you did mention a company called Avocana. Avocana is presenting next. For those of you
after me.
Yeah, they're presenting next at in 30 minutes. So I strongly encourage those of you that are on now to stick around and also catch Avocana. I see a lot of wisdom, in what RS is doing.
When you look at what he has built, 50,000-foot facility, all of the licenses, 100% plant medicine, organic, has all the pieces of the pharma FDA pipeline. That's why 20 years they told me synthetic. We have the technology to bring stable plant products to market. We're doing that in the cannabis world. We're doing that in the CBD world. We do it in the nootropic world. It can be done in the psychedelic world. And again, yes, there are going to be people that abuse these products, and we understand that. It happens today with opioids, alcohol, coffee, and we are going to do our best to make sure, just like we've always talked about a mini microdose, are taking people through escalated journeys, we've always said it doesn't have to be heavy dosing.
So you called it neurogenesis the other day.
Yeah.
When I was describing what Jim described to me, and Jim's somebody who you don't even know, but
we talked to
yeah, he's neurogenesis. Talk to us about what neurogenesis is.
In my mind, when we've sat around, in Hawaii and talked about it, it's that feeling that you get when you have wires crossed in your brain. I'll use myself as an example. It's every time I got stressed in Miami, I'd light up a cigar. So somewhere my wires got crossed, and I wasn't going to products and things that I knew worked for me. So I got to Hawaii and figured out how to rewire my brain to put better habit loops, like taking the nootropics that I used to take, going to the local growers and getting real coconut water, going to the local growers and getting real quality organic cannabis. So I talk about neurogenesis in the version of putting products in your body that rewire your brain into more positive and empowering things to do.
Right. So what Professor Dr. Ruda's explained to me is that his profession, the academics, the practitioners, have always thought that the brain is extremely rigid, and once the pathways is developed, that's it. The cake's baked, and there's no way to change how the cake actually turns out. And that's the way that psychology looks at the human mind.
Well, Professor Feynman actually described it. A well-known physicist that enjoyed psychedelics described it as, when you are pre-5 years old, you have a first attention, and your first attention as a child allows you to, take in cognitive biases and build your brain or your awareness to what it is. What psychedelics do, what cannabis, what the products that I take in Hawaii do, is they allow me to take an eraser to my brain where I've been desensitized and rework new neural pathways in my mind, where I wire my brain to deal with some type of trauma in my life. I'm going to tell you, 7 years later, I'm finally dealing with my divorce. So things take time. Like you have to process through it.
Well, you're about 3 years ahead of schedule for me, because it takes me about a decade to deal with stuff that I don't like to deal with. I'm about 10 years. So you at 7, you're faster than I am.
It's I wish, again, and we follow the letter of the law at all levels, but my dream is for people to have access to quality psychotropic, psychedelic, good medicines, where we don't go and pick up a bottle of something or go self-medicate with things. At the end of the day, Adderall, which is a product that I was put on at 20 years old, is still a product that is highly consumed in universities. It's highly consumed in cities that are very fast-paced, like New York and Miami. The joke was, in Miami, to pop an Adderall and to have, what is it called, a espresso martini. And I'm thinking to myself, 50 milligrams of Adderall with an espresso martini, I don't know which side would be up.
Well, I got you beat in that department, because I got put on Adderall at 3 years old. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. And I spent the next 23 years on different types of ADHD medications, which is very, very, it's difficult. I hated taking those medications, and it made me feel awful. And when I would take the medications, I would basically be told by other people, "Oh, he's well behaved," while I feel terrible inside, right?
Yeah.
So to conform with people's expectations of me, I was highly medicated through elementary, middle, high school, college, into my early professional career. And I finally, came to a place where I said, no more. I'm not gonna take this stuff. Not gonna do it. All right. So this is definitely a very, very interesting topic for me.
So
let's talk about sorry, go ahead.
You dealt with your own habit loop that you had to rewire. You were put on these medications. I mean, I don't know if you want to speak about it, but you were one of the people that got me into cigars, and you're not smoking cigars anymore. You're working out, and so it's about removing things that may not empower you properly.
So I'm not fully off cigars, but I'm pretty close. I've gone from 7 a day down to 3 a week.
Okay, so good.
I'm making progress on that front, but it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress, and I don't mean to be a bad influence on you.
No, not at all. Listen, Michael. There's a number of people that I met in Miami. Miami was incredible for what it was, but I'm a jungle boy at heart. I'm barefoot again. I'm just back to where I need to be.
Yeah, I'm happy to see that, that things are going well over there. Let's talk about acquisitions.
Yep.
Let's talk about some of the acquisitions that you have, that you can talk about,
Sure.
So let's talk about acquisitions. What do you have in your mind? What are you focused on?
We're looking at a lot of things. We have made strategic investments into companies that we see could be targets in the future. We made a strategic investment into Avocana. We made a strategic investment into Odyssey Elixir as a beverage company that we saw could have a silly beverage. We know that the market today is going to further consolidate. We have quantitative tightening. We still have about $1 trillion to go in quantitative tightening. So again, not giving any financial advice, we are sort of taking some time off right now to watch companies go through this cycle. We believe that there will be over 100 companies in the psychedelic space that will run out of money in the next 90 days. So our strategy is to come in and buy assets and IP that works within what we're doing. If we see a clinical trial that we feel is real and works with what we're doing, we will invest and buy into it. I can tell you that we are getting probably 5 to 10 term sheets a day from companies that are, on their last monies. And again, we want to empower the right companies. I think that somewhere around October, November, you will see some heavy M&A pick up in our company. But right now, we're really focused on getting this plant-based accelerator that, we've been talking about this plant-based accelerator for 3 years. Now we have the capital to do it. And we are putting together our own media team here in Hawaii. We're going to be launching a podcast and a newsletter called The Daily Pono, and really just bringing it all back to Hawaii. We want to we want to conduct this frequency of what we have in Hawaii to the world, because the world needs it.
So I love this plant-based accelerator. Tell me what it looks like in your head.
Very similar to a Y Combinator model. What we talked about is investing in 50 startups, putting a check initially of $25,000 in, coming up with some equity and strategic components where we handle certain parts of legal, we do advisory services. Next round of financing is maybe 100,000, 200,000. After that, maybe we put $1 million in, depending on what stage the company's in. We're going to be very discerning. I've always said the 1 out of 10 model doesn't work for me. I believe we can strike 8 out of 10 in the companies that we will partner and accelerate. And I don't think it's a true accelerator. I think it's an element of us coming in and strategically partnering with these companies and looking to deploy the Silly brand into these products. And we always said that it was about us stewarding a brand that identified with Hawaii, that had trust and confidence that when you picked it up, you felt good. And I got to tell you, when I go to the grocery store or when I go to the store, I'm very unclear of what brands are truly Pono. And, in Hawaiian, Pono means righteousness. So I think for us, when we were sitting yesterday with a number of locals and they asked us, what companies are we going to fund or partner with? The core foundation has to be Pono. It's about companies that are on Hawaii, that are working with the plants and want to bring jobs to this island. So in our mind, it's deploying $25,000 each into 50 startups and deploying $1 million in the next 12 months.
Wow, that's a cool model. I love it.
Yep.
And Hawaii has an edge, a cluster. It's built into the fabric of where you're at, plant-based solutions.
There is no reason that with technology today, we cannot broadcast the frequency, the seeds, the plants. I'll tell you right now, Costco has purchased a humongous piece of land in Hawaii where they're developing their own seeds and agricultural products. There are a lot of companies using Hawaii as a testing zone. I don't necessarily like that. I want to keep the profits in Hawaii. The minute I left Florida, I took myself off of Florida payroll and put myself on Hawaiian state tax, which I think is like 16%. But it's not about like gimmicking the system. It's about actually like, if you don't put good energy in, you can't expect good energy to come out. And I think that that's where the world is right now. We keep taking, but we don't want to put anything back in. And now the markets have consolidated. I feel terrible because so many of our investors, like I had at least 50 investors that emailed me personally that said because of the consolidation in the market, they no longer were accredited investors. So we want to make sure we build something that is real for our investors.
All right. So you're in the Silicon Valley of plant-based medicine.
We are. You go to become an actor, you go to LA. To learn about permaculture and plant medicine, you come to Hawaii.
You're in the Greenwich, Connecticut of plant-based medicine.
Listen, yesterday was so funny. I've been getting back into surfing, and I used to actually hike Cayenne Point 11 miles, 7 days a week barefoot. I couldn't even be barefoot on the pavement yesterday. It was funny. So I'm getting myself back into who I used to be.
So look, what people don't realize is it takes a lot of experience to do what you're doing, to build a company like you've built, and then to help other companies that actually need your help and support. You can leverage your skill sets that you've grown over the last 2 decades plus, learning how to build startups, learning how to invest in startups, learning the pitfalls, what makes a company successful, the difference between a good operator, a bad operator.
Checklist, right? Check boxes.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm hearing from you today is you are going to basically take EI Ventures and Silly and start incubating a bunch of companies and helping those companies like grow, become independent, and then thrive on their own.
Yeah, and we don't talk about this a lot, but our family office, which is orthogonal, we're in the process of launching our own fundraising portal where we are going to be able to take those companies through the process of 506C, Reg D, Reg S, Reg A, Reg CF. I'll tell you what I tell everybody. They go, David, what was Miami all about? It was my crash course in investment banking. I think I received my PhD. So I learned a lot about how the markets are rigged. I learned good habits, bad habits, and I'm taking that information and wanting to empower other companies to not make the mistakes that I had to go through.
Which is brilliant because it provides opportunities to scale.
Yep.
All right. And then you're able to start with something that's meaningful for a startup, 25K, build a relationship with the management team, see, if they execute on what they say they're going to execute, how they communicate, right? When mistakes happen, how they handle the mistakes, right? Because things are going to happen. Stuff's going to come up. Life happens, right?
And just to let you know, we've already started offering, we've already started putting term sheets out to companies in Hawaii. We've already, put out about 3 term sheets. So we're going to be announcing these companies sooner than later. And I'm going to say this with no ego. And I think maybe we just open it up to questions. We know what we're doing. We're a good team. We understand how to do this well. We know how to steward capital. And we're good people. And I think it comes down to that simple element of we need to go back to the simpleness of understanding trust and good people and people that want to make good decisions for other people too. And that's who we are. We've grown into this company now that is ready to be a public company. And I could tell you before today, I couldn't say that, but today I can tell you we've matured as a company and have the team to be the biggest company in the plant medicine space. And at this point, my understanding is we are the second most valuable psychedelic company in the world right now. And again, I don't necessarily think the first company is the first, considering they, really they have ketamine and a lot of synthetic products. But yes, we are the #1 company out there right now.
All right. So Jeremy, are you with us right now? Can you go through some of the Q&A and start, bringing in some of the questions here?
All right.
And put your video on, because you're showing a picture of me.
All
An
right.
old picture of me.
All right. So what about upcoming vertical farming deals in Europe? We are in the middle of designing private equity term sheets, Phil, in Switzerland.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're right now very focused on Hawaii. We will look at all deals, and orthogonal portal, which we'll discuss on another conversation. We will be looking at those type of deals through our new fundraising platform. But right now we're really getting ourselves integrated in Hawaii and empowering Hawaii startups.
Okay. How about acquisitions in the space? Many of the public companies have spent money, but can't follow through on their vision. Are you in a position to buy other companies to continue to be a leader in the space?
I can tell you that our coffers are full. We have a lot of liquidity. The family office, our family office that owns 80% of EI Ventures, has a lot of cash and liquidity. And yes, we are going to buy companies, and it's actually less about the companies. I think it's going to be a lot of talent acquisition. I think it's going to be about people that are going to work well within our team. Obviously, we know that we are going to have post-public financing coming in. And really our goal right now is to be able to make acquisitions that fit well within our current team.
Okay. Are there plans to go public?
We are a week to 2 weeks away from filing our S4. To explain that, because I've been asked this question a lot. We went through what's called a Reg A, which is considered a pre-IPO. We are doing what's called a double reverse merger, where Emotional Intelligence Ventures, which is valued at $333 million, is merging with Mycotopia, which was valued at $1.56 a share, and merging into a new company called Psily.com, PSLY.com, and the ticker symbol has been reserved under PSLY, Psily.
Nice.
We also now formally own the trademark for PSI LLY. So you're going to see different lifestyle products and gear coming out. I like PSLY, but 10 years ago, it started out as Psily, PSI LLY. And again, we appreciate that there were certain people that had filed trademarks that, gave those trademarks to us.
Do you see a decline in alcohol and an increase in psilocybin-based products in the future?
It's not a decline. We have a very good friend of ours that is working on a tequila company that is 100% agave based, has no synthetics in it. I don't like to get into connotations about, alcohol or other things. Listen, I like to drink wine. I like to drink tequila. I think this really comes down to, to be totally candid with you, I see 100% growth levels on plant-based, non-GMO, non-synthetic products. I think that what I love about the market is the market tells you everything. And if you look at the synthetic companies in the food space, in the biotech space, or in whatever space you look at in synthetic products, stocks are down 90%. That means that people went through the hype phase, and I don't think I think fake meat, which was popular in Hawaii at some point before we left, people want to eat a real Maui burger.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. How do you let's see, how do you find these entrepreneurs that you're working with in Hawaii?
We have something called the Coconut Wireless.
Yeah. Michael, did you have any other questions?
I personally do not have any questions. I'm grateful for David and getting to know him and him sharing the wisdom that he has with me. He's a special person.
Thank you, Mike. You guys are very special to us also.
I'm grateful that have gotten to know you, and you know, there's no ego with you. You're real. You've been real since day one with me, and it's it's refreshing, especially living in Miami where there's a lot of let's call it drip going on out there. David Nikzad tells you what's on his mind, whether you like it or don't like it. And
it just didn't feel right when we were sitting at these clubs and these crypto companies were signing these $250,000 tabs at the nightclubs. So I think that Miami needs to settle down a little bit.
So when does the round close? Was another question.
Yeah, officially the round closes on the 19th. My understanding, given that there's been a lot of people wanting to invest, because this is a very strict Reg D, meaning that US investors have to submit paperwork for accreditation. The round might close, let's say on the 20th or 21st. We're working through that. We're going to be sending updates. I would also say that the Reg S for international investors does not have to be accredited, is my understanding. I hope I'm right. Megan, tell us. But yes, the Reg D investors have to be accredited. Our Reg A is over. This is not a Reg CF. And what I would say to you is we have raised a lot of money. We are super grateful. And I want to say this because I think it's appropriate. There have been a lot of people on this journey in the last 20 years. We're grateful for all the people that worked with us, helped us. Everybody on Maui, everybody in Hawaii, the crew at Surya Spa, Meadow in San Francisco, Speedweed, just everybody we met over the years, and all of our new friends. We have never sold a share of stock in any of the companies we've invested in to this day. And we are here to empower others like people empowered us. Thank you.
Awesome.
David, thank you very much. Do you have anything to say to RS before he starts today?
I got to tell you, I committed to a strategic partnership and to RS in 11 seconds. This guy is the real deal. I have our company's money, my personal money, my family's money behind it. And, all I can say is I'm excited to announce what we're going to announce next week.